This is the vernier infrared thermometer, and what it does is it measures the temperature of objects without having to touch them. And it measures the infrared radiation coming from the object, and then it comes into this part of the detector here and measures the temperature. So it's nice to be able to do things like measure temperatures in the environment. You want to compare concrete, asphalt, and grass that's out in the sunshine, the surface temperature of different cars and the color. I'm going to use it to measure the temperature of this skillet, so I don't actually have to touch it there. I might measure the palm of my hand or the back of my hand. So it's a nice way to be able to measure temperatures without actually having to be in physical contact with it. So to turn the device on, this is the on-off button where it says measure, and you actually turn that on. And at this point we see a temperature that's coming up here. And if I hold my hand maybe in front of it like that, I get one temperature. If I flip it over, maybe the back of my hand's a little colder there. Now there's also a couple of other buttons here, and this one right here where it says hold, what this will do is if you press it, it will hold whatever the last temperature was on there. So the idea here is that you could aim it at something, just press hold, and it will give you that value. You could write it down so it's not changing on you. So if you're using it as a standalone device, you might choose to use that. Now the other button here is a laser button, and what this does is it turns on the laser, and the laser gives you a circle. So if I turn it on here, we can actually, I'll turn it towards the here so you can see there's lasers coming out of there, and so it turns it on, and we can have the circle that's on my hand. It's measuring the temperature inside the circle there. So whatever radiation is coming from that area inside the circle is what it's measuring. So if I move further out, the circle gets bigger. If I get closer, the circle gets smaller. A common question I will get with this one is like, how far away can the object be? Well, it can be very, very far away, but what it's doing is it's looking at the radiation coming from the solid angle from the object. So it could be a wall that's very distant, but it's going to be the large area of that wall. If you're close to the wall, it's just going to be a little piece of the wall. So I turned it on, so pretty obviously that it must have some battery inside, and it turns out that it does, that it's back here behind this panel here. It's just some AAA batteries. So I'd like to set this up to make some measurements here with my skillet. So I just have my skillet on the hot plate, and we'll turn it on and measure the temperature going up, and then maybe watch it go back down again. So at this point, I need to attach this to the cable, and so this is the infrared thermometer cable, and it just plugs in via the phono plug here at the back. And I'm going to plug it into my LabQuest here, and now we get our reading here on the device, on our meter. Now let's take a look at our upper right corner here. It's a similar default mode to most of the temperature sensors, being time-based and 3 minutes, 180 seconds. This one defaults to 1 sample per second for that. Now that's good for some things. What I would like to do is lengthen my time a little bit. I'd like to do maybe for about 5 minutes, and so I'm going to go up here and press up there. And then I want to change this to 5 minutes or 300 seconds. So I'll tap on 180, make this 300, and say done. And now I'm fine with that. I will say OK. And now we're ready to collect data. And I will turn the hot plate on, and we'll measure the temperature of the inside of the skillet here as it collects data. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this. I will turn on my laser, and so we can see the laser circle down in there, and then I will hit the collect button, and it starts to collect data. Let it start running there for a second, and then I will turn this on, and now it is on, and we'll let it collect data for 5 minutes. So I've let about half of my time elapse here, so at this point I'm going to turn it off, and we'll watch the cooling of the skillet. Now our data collection is complete, so I can turn off my laser, and we've got our data. And if we look at it here, we see the temperature begins to rise up here. And at this point right here, there's a little blip in the data, and that's when I turned the actual hot plate off, and I moved my temperature sensor as I did that. So it kind of got off to the spot, but it's okay because that may have happened. And it's interesting to note that the temperature actually keeps rising a little bit even after I turn the hot plate off. And but then it begins to cool off again. So, for this one, for the analysis, I might be interested in, what was the maximum temperature, so I could go to statistics, check the box next to temperature, and I ended up with the maximum of 172.7 degrees C at 183 seconds. So that might be some of the analysis that I would do with this. The vernier infrared thermometer allows you to measure temperatures without having to touch the object. So for environmental studies, monitoring temperature in the environment of different surfaces, it's great for that. We saw it here with the skillet, being able to measure something without having to touch it. And so that's the real advantage of this. So there's lots of uses for it in a lot of different areas, and we'd love to see what you can do with it.